Hi everyone, I'm Liberty Doll. Welcome to this week's Liberty Update, free from alternative facts. Yeah, I can't really wink, so I don't know why I did that. Today marks the first full week of Trump's presidency, and boy was the administration busy. The entire senior management of the State Department resigned on Wednesday, and the administration also lost a key Border Patrol agent. Trump has issued a presidential proclamation for National School Choice Week, threatened to send the feds to Chicago in an effort to curb crime, and the White House was accused of photoshopping Trump's photos to make his hands look bigger because it's a very important issue. On Thursday, the White House suggested imposing a 20% tax on all goods imported from Mexico in order to pay for the wall, which caused the peso to plummet. Seeing the damage the proposal had done, the White House quickly backpedaled and instead called it one of a buffet of options. Such a tax would not be taken up by Mexico, but by the companies importing Mexican products, making them more expensive and then passing on those taxes to the consumers, etc., which would likely curb the demand for Mexican products, and Mexico ships 80% of its exports to the US. Nevertheless, it is one of the plans being weighed by congressional Republicans. Trump continues to insist Mexico should pay for the wall, and Mexico continues to say, "Fuck you." Trump said, "Fine, then don't even come to our meeting next week. We don't want you." And Mexico said, "Fine, then we won't." And now there's no US-Mexico summit. We also had a series of executive orders this week, some good if they weren't executive orders, some bad, and some downright scary. According to The Independent, Trump's new executive order on immigration also includes a clause that requires the Secretary of Homeland Security to make a public list of crimes committed by immigrants every week. The order does not specify whether the list will include only illegal immigrants, leading most people to believe that all immigrants are in the crosshairs, even though the government's own National Crime Justice Reference Service reports that immigrants commit less crimes than native-born Americans. Other executive orders include the Mexico Wall, and, well, we already know how that's going. Cutting off federal funding for international abortions. Why were we paying for that? Withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. A hiring freeze for all federal agencies, except for the military 5,000 Border Patrol agents and 10,000 new customs officers. A federal waiver of any fees, taxes, penalties, etc. related to Obamacare. And new detention centers for people caught trying to cross the border. Other controversial orders are the indefinite suspension of Syrian refugees while also limiting the number of new refugees to 50,000, the go-ahead for the Keystone and Dakota pipelines, and a great rebuilding of the nation's military. According to Forbes and Politico, most of the executive orders were signed without any consultation with the relevant government agencies, and the immigration policies alone would actually increase federal spending by $13 billion a year, not including the wall. It's also currently illegal to detain children in detention centers indefinitely, but the immigration courts are so backlogged that people would probably end up being detained indefinitely. On Friday, Trump also suspended immigration from 7 Muslim countries for 90 days and refugees from any country in the world for at least 120. International companies are going into panic mode, with Google already recalling over 100 international employees immediately out of fear that they will not be able to return to the US. Some Visa and Green Card holders were already being blocked from flights to the US as early as last night. Some were able to board planes only to be detained at their destinations. After an alleged gag order on the EPA and USDA, the government was especially leaky this week. Among the leaks were 6 alleged executive orders, some of which ended up being pretty legit as they matched orders Trump signed later in the week, word for word. Other alleged order drafts include a mass deportation of immigrants who came to the U.S. when they were 16 or younger, and an order for the Department of Homeland Security to regularly visit places that employ immigrants and to specifically monitor foreign students, as well as a new provision that would make it illegal for anyone with a tourist visa to work, even though tourist visas allow stays of up to 6 months and are often held for business purposes. Another draft would deny immigration to anyone who the DHS deems may need public services and would deport any visa holders who use social welfare benefits, as well as requiring whoever sponsored them to reimburse the government. The New York Times claims to have been leaked information about a revival of CIA black site prisons, even though The Guardian revealed back in 2015 that black sites like Homan Square never really went away. The alleged order would also rekindle torture under the guise of interrogation. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer denies this document up and down, even though 3 separate officials supposedly confirmed the document had been passed around a national security meeting on Tuesday. Trump's aides, too, are supposedly guilty of leaks and have leaked several far from savory anecdotes about the president to the press, including a rumor that he is considering firing Spicer already because he doesn't like the guy's suits. According to the Washington Post, almost a dozen White House officials and advisors were happy to provide the embarrassing stories about how the new president can't handle embarrassing stories. Zing! Several big media outlets have published how to leak to the press guides, and The Intercept coined the phrase, "If you see something, leak something." If the first week of the presidency is any indication, leakers may ensure Trump has the most transparent presidency ever. The University Democrats at UVA have released their own plan to counter oppression in the Trump administration with a list of 100 things liberal students can do during Trump's first 100 days. Suggestions include things like calling politicians and reading the party platform, watching documentaries on Netflix, asking university employees about their day, and buying bumper stickers. UVA President Brett Curtis says the list will set the tone to fight Trump's executive orders and make liberal goals heard. With bumper stickers. Meanwhile, in the feminist corner of the internet, it was revealed that one of the leaders of the Women's March on Washington once tweeted that she wished she could take away the vaginas of women she didn't feel deserved to be women. She aimed this particular lament at 2 refugee women, one of which was a victim of female genital mutilation. Oh, that's so sweet and professional and inclusive of your goals. The march leader also has alleged ties to Hamas. The march itself is now also being accused of purposefully perpetuating genital-based feminism via the pink pussy hats and excluding the trans community. Trans women have popped up all over the internet, calling the movement oppressive for equating womanhood with a vagina. But have no fear, California is going to fix it the way they always do, by passing another law. California legislators are considering a new bill called the Gender Recognition Act of 2017 that would include non-binary on state IDs, driver's licenses, and birth certificates. Critics argue that the bill is taking attention away from more pressing matters and that the law could easily be abused and will open the door for pronoun hysteria. Sponsors of the bill say it is aimed towards reducing discrimination. Another group announced their own plans to battle discrimination this week. ICP is organizing a march on Washington in hopes of clearing the Juggalo name. Fans claim that they have been targeted, harassed, profiled, lost jobs, and lost custody of their children due to identifying as a Juggalo after the FBI included them in a 2011 gang threat assessment. The Department of Housing and Urban Development has apparently decided not only to not do its job, but to actively break the Americans with Disabilities Act by refusing to accommodate and then firing a woman who became disabled after HUD refused to move her out of a mold-infested office. For those unaware, HUD is supposed to be the safety enforcer for mold and the agency that enforces wheelchair accommodations. The mold in the woman's office created breathing problems so severe that she had to use a wheelchair while at work. HUD ignored doctors' notes about this, ignored a media report on the news about the mold, and not only refused to let the woman change her office to accommodate her wheelchair, but also refused to move her to a handicap-accessible location. When the woman was hospitalized from the office due to the effects of the mold, she was fired for being absent. HUD fought her in court for 3 years, after which she went bankrupt and lost her house and became permanently disabled, and finally settled for $900,000 after repeated orders by a judge. HUD also awarded $900,000 to a woman who sued the agency after a supervisor called her buckwheat. That case never even went to court and was settled without question. Finally, the people over at Yes California have convinced state lawmakers to let them petition for a secession movement to go on the 2018 ballot. Lawmakers gave them the green light to begin collecting 600,000 signatures this week, which amounts to roughly 8% of the population of California. According to a poll by Reuters, nearly 1 in 3 Californians support secession. But if somehow passed, the measure would still need a 2/3 majority in Congress and approval from 38 states. So it's pretty unlikely. That's too bad. That concludes your liberty-related news for the week. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Thanks for watching.